The Hunter Academy of Sport selected 10 of the region's most accomplished junior sportsmen and women as beneficiaries of the second annual Olympic 2000 Youth Fund. The winners, representing 8 different sports, are either state, national or international champions. Each received $1,000 to help meet the expenses incurred in their pursuit of excellence. The struggle to finance sporting commitments is a battle known only too well by 17-year-old Wayne Bristow from Toronto.
Not many people think, they all think 100 metres, 1500 metres, that's all they think of about athletics. They really put steeplechasing on the second rank of athletics running, but steeplechasing is one of the hardest events in track and field, and to get recognition for an event such as that is really great.
Wayne is ranked number 1 under-18 steeplechaser in Australia and the world and has been selected in the National Junior Development Squad, which is preparing for the World Junior Championships. The scholarships are part of a 7-year commitment by the Greater Building Society. This long-term provision vital to ensure young athletes achieve their goals, says former Olympian Terry Charlton.
To reach the international level, you've got to spend years and years at it, and they're the top junior athletes now, and so that in 6 or 7 years' time, they're going to be the ones coming through.
Catherine Lamond, NBN News.
The concept is simple. A plane flies at high speed through a suitable cloud, causing moisture that would not otherwise have become rain to condense and fall. Close to 100 people attended a meeting in Inverell today to listen to the pros and cons of the plan to introduce it to the New England.
The main benefits would certainly be a dramatic increase in pasture production in the autumn, a greater carrying capacity over the winter, and therefore a greater average carrying capacity overall, and a more profitable livestock industry.
But the technology isn't new. It's been around for 40 years and has been used in Tasmania since 1964.
We spend about $500,000 a year on our project, and it's worth at least $20 million in extra water.
The problem is, while one farmer sowing crops may want rain during spring, another farmer's shearing might be disrupted. There are also land use implications of flooding and erosion during the traditionally wetter winter period.
The secret in making the thing work, if it does get going, will be marrying those two objectives together and getting a compromise that provides some benefits to the graziers and the tableland people and slopes, and some residual benefit for the dams.
Feedback from the forum will form the basis of the Northwest Catchment Management Committee's recommendation to the Conservation and Land Management Minister, George Souris.
Left, right, left, right, left.
This is not the sight you'd expect to see on an army base, but the kangaroos here have adopted the Singleton Range as their own, 25,000 of them.
They tend to survive very well. We don't tend to interfere with them very much.
The roos outnumber staff by 50 to 1. They've moved in over the years as the land around the base has become more and more settled. Also, the 1,300 hectare property offers good pasture and water in this time of drought. But the roos have caused problems, especially when visiting American pilots come into land for the first time.
And as he came down, a big herd bounced in front of the aircraft and he'd cleaned up about 10 of them. It was rather interesting, though, that the Hercules was grounded for about 3 days to get repairs.
The cost to cull the roos is prohibitive, so the Army is letting nature do its own thing. And that's not just with the roos, also lyrebirds, koalas and the endangered brush-tail wallaby. Maybe that Army khaki is turning just a brighter shade of green. Peter Ryan, NBN News. If farmers didn't have enough problems with dying stock and poor crops, a survey in the Merriwa area in the Upper Hunter has shown their income will be down from a $47,000 profit to a $32,000 loss. Cattle producers pushed into a corner by the dry times are facing financial ruin.
People just cannot afford to feed cattle for much longer, so they're selling off basically next year's income at a tenth of the price that they would get next year.
The survey through the Rural Lands Protection Board also found operating costs are up nearly 20% this year. Only 14% of farmers have no debt. A quarter of those surveyed had debts in excess of $200,000. And for cattle breeders, the problems will continue for years to come.
Many of these cattle that are being kept and fed aren't going back in calf. So 1996-97's income will probably be reduced at this stage by 30 or 40% as well.
The information is going to Federal Primary Industries Minister Collins. Merriwar missed out on special drought funding. Local farmers angry they've been deserted in their worst period on record. It was not your regular game of cricket. It started with lunch, a gourmet meal and some fine hunter wines.
It's a tactical cricket game. Big lunch, short game.
Well, you try and get them a bit full before they get out there?
No, we try and host them correctly and then we play cricket.
Piped onto the field the two skippers, Singleton's Mayor Neil McNamara and Colonel Rod Margetts. The Army won the toss, but then it was time for team photos. If it looks a bit crowded, it is. For this special game, each team has 12 players on the field, a rule brought in when the trophy clash began in 1983. Yesterday it was the Prime Minister's 11, but Mr Keating stayed on the sidelines. Today the Mayor's 12 was ready for work.
He wasn't prepared to have a go. I'm out there batting away and bowling. I'm first cab off the rank. I go into bat first and I go to bowl first, and the Colonel's got to do the same.
It was high-tension cricket, the Singleton Army base taking revenge for last year's loss, picking up 163 runs for the loss of 6 wickets. The Mayor's team struggled for 157. Private Schultz was named man of the match.
The 450-metre-long nets were cast into the river at 6:30 this morning. The whale was sighted near Cat Eye Creek in the Manning River, considered by rescuers as an ideal position for capture. But travelling at around 35 kilometres an hour, Willie accelerated twice through the inside and outside of the nets, destroying them in the process. The operation was called off as a result.
What we've done to the animal is certainly a certain amount of intimidation, which may make the animal want to leave the river on its own accord. So I don't believe it's detrimental to his condition or to the whole operation.
The skin sample should provide long-awaited answers for marine experts.
The skin is actually white. Now, we're not sure where that skin came from. Now, if it's white and came from the top of the animal, that could be a problem because there may be some ulceration on the top.
Another attempt to rescue Willie may be made tomorrow. Stronger nets may be required, and National Parks and SeaWorld personnel show no signs of giving up the rescue effort. Tracy Walsh, NBN News.
The hundreds of residents looked anything but beaten today, despite the in-principle approval of the plant. Any signs of disappointment were overshadowed by their anger at the state government and Cessnock Council.
I still believe in democracy, and I think that this is a case where the people have the right to decide their own environment.
The Curry Concerned Citizens Action Group says there would be grave health problems for the community from the fallout of the smelter, which would process dross, an aluminium byproduct. The group will meet with the Trades Hall Council on Thursday to try to get a union green ban on the worksite. But residents hope a ban won't be needed, with an appeal to be lodged at the Land and Environment Court on Monday.
It'll involve briefing lawyers and actually making an application to have the decision reversed on the grounds that there was insufficient
notification that there was insufficient study, that there was an insufficient EIS.
Richard O'Leary, NBN News. The 13-year-old was found lying in a car park in Fife Lane at Yamina just before 9 this morning, covered in his own blood. The teenager had been bashed about the head with a blunt object. He'd also been stabbed in the stomach and arm. He was taken to Gosford Hospital in a critical condition and later transferred to Sydney's Royal North Shore Hospital. Police have door-knocked neighbours for information, but admit they have few clues. It's believed the boy was set upon late last night. Police have called on the public to help piece together the boy's movements before the vicious attack. Meanwhile, mystery surrounds the death of an elderly man in his Budgie Boy home on the Central Coast. It's believed there are suspicious circumstances, although police can't confirm whether the man has been murdered. Richard O'Leary, NBN News.
After 3 months in Rwanda, Al Playford was exhausted, emotional and extremely excited to be home. Met by his wife Maria and his 2 daughters, he recalled some of the memories of his trip.
It would be hard to describe adequately the sadness that we've seen over there. You know, it's just something that all of us are very emotional about, particularly at the moment.
Al, a paramedic, has worked in some horrific circumstances in Australia, but the sight of thousands of people slaughtered in a church in Rwanda was just incomprehensible. His job was to set up an ambulance service. They set it up using 4 vehicles running to Rwanda's borders from a base at the capital, Kigali. Much of his 3 months' work with Care Australia was spent with young children orphaned by the atrocities of the war.
And the gratification comes to us all for the kids whose lives have been saved, the kids who have stepped on mines and hand grenades, had their legs blown off and ultimately been saved.
Also meeting Al at the airport, another family member, Meg, their Cocker Spaniel. Al will go back to his paramedic work in a few days, continuing to save lives. But meanwhile, there is one special treat. His daughter Michelle is celebrating her 17th birthday, her greatest present, having Dad home. Peter Ryan, NBN News. Sir Jack Brabham is a man with a passion for speed, and he was in the ultimate speed machine, an FA-18 Hornet jet fighter. Racing legend, Sir Jack won World Formula One racing titles in 1959, 60 and 66. He went on to develop his own racing cars. But back in 1944, as Jack Brabham, he was a flight mechanic at the Williamtown RAF base near Newcastle, working on Beaufighter aircraft. Today it was an emotional step back in history for the king of speed.
It's great to have the opportunity to come back and see what they've done with it in the meantime, and they've certainly got some different aeroplanes here, I can assure you.
Sir Jack, who is now 68 years old, was given a tour of the Hornet by squadron leader Jeff Brown, a step up in speed from his old racing car days.
That certainly would be getting along a lot faster than I've ever been, I can assure you.
Beside his visit to the RAF, Sir Jack is in Newcastle working on a revolutionary car engine with split-cycle technology. The lightweight engine is said to be capable of running on all known alternative fuels. Peter Ryan, NBN News.
A joint venture between the Curry Football and Motorcycle Clubs, the makeshift track has been laid and licensed in the last 10 days in preparation for the town's first motocross event.
We've been running race meetings in the local area at Raymond Terrace and Cameron Park, and we want to bring it to our town and keep some money in our town, and we can promote something really good. We can show everyone how professional we are.
Pee-wee and junior riders will all get their chance this Saturday, along with 5 fields of seniors, including Cessnock's Australian champion Chris Watson. Watson was one of 3 riders trialling the track this morning and is keen for further success after winning the Trackmaster title in Newcastle on Saturday.
Looks like it's going to be good fun for riders and spectators. The track's going to be nice and tight, so they'll be pushing and shoving and some fast, close racing.
At 9:30, the northbound station wagon attempted to slow down after rounding a corner 9 kilometres north of Kalungaluk. The weight of the 8 people in the car and the trailer load has been blamed for the vehicle crossing to the wrong side of the road and overturning.
The trailer was overloaded at the stage. He's moving up to Queensland. He's had all the stuff to move up, and all it was he just overloaded the trailer, and when he's put the foot on the brake, it's just lost control.
The trailer was carrying furniture, household goods and this large trampoline. The driver's 6 children aged between 5 months and 13 years and his wife were crammed into the car. They've been treated at the Manning Base Hospital for minor bruising. Police say not every child was wearing a seatbelt.
Very dangerous. The thing is that the cars are only made to tow a certain amount, and anything over that makes the car not perform to what it was made, and as you can see, the damage that's been caused, could have been very much worse.
The 38-year-old driver, Marijan Zujic, has been charged with having unrestrained children in the car and negligent driving. He's been ordered to pay a fine. Tracy Walsh, NBN News. The 42-hectare site for the proposed crematorium is in dense bushland on Drutt Road. Plans include a crematorium, lawn cemetery and memorial gardens. A chapel on the grounds will seat 100. Tuncurry Funeral Director Alan Pearce says he agrees in principle with the need for the complex, since the nearest crematorium is at Port Macquarie.
Generally, I support the concept of having a local crematorium in the Foster and Taree area, but I can't support the location of a crematorium at Failford.
According to Alan Pearce, this lawn cemetery and memorial garden is large enough to service the Great Lakes area for the next 100 years. The situation in Taree is more urgent. At the Dawson River Cemetery, it's expected to reach capacity in the next 5 years.
I'm concerned that any crematorium located at Failford would cater for a smaller population and would therefore have to be perhaps of a smaller dimension.
Mr Pearce says it may not be economically viable for the Taree crematorium to be constructed if the Failford development application is approved. The plans are on display at Great Lakes Council for the next 3 weeks. Tracy Walsh, NBN News.
The American program Entertainment Tonight captured a sneak preview of Fiddler's Green. It's the true story of a group of renegade cavalry officers who saved 500 horses from slaughter. They take them from New Mexico to the Canadian border, chased by the rest of the cavalry.
Basically, it was an impossible task. 5 men taking 500-600 horses it's phenomenal that they made it.
This is the same thing they use on the horse.
Australia was chosen to double for America's Midwest because it apparently looks more like 1930s America than America. Star Don Johnson says the scenery was beautiful, but unpredictable weather was a challenge.
I've learned one thing about Australia. If you don't like the weather, just stick around for 15 minutes and it'll change.
But it didn't stop Johnson from having a good time. Fiddler's Green will be screened on cable television in the US early next year.